Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Yeah, Ajay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
To begin with, we are 4 people and you can introduce yourself to all of us.
Sir, my name is Zain Raza. I belong to Peshawar. I did my O-levels and A-levels from Edward School and Edwards College in Peshawar. Later, I moved to Islamabad, from where I graduated with a degree in civil engineering from NUST, Islamabad. Sir, thereafter, I worked briefly with a consultancy firm in Peshawar, during which time I sat for the CSS exam in 2015, but unfortunately, I was unsuccessful. So finally, in 2017, I joined the provincial civil service and I had the honor of securing the top position in the province. Currently, I'm working as Assistant Commissioner in Takhbai Tehsil of District Mardan. And in my spare time, I enjoy playing sports, mostly golf and swimming.
So you are serving in Takhbai as Assistant Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us the profile of profile of your subdivision, Takhbai?
Sir, Takhbai is a rural tehsil of District Mardan. Overall, if we look at Takhbai, there is a lot of agricultural potential over there, mostly tobacco, wheat, mustard oil, and oranges. These are the main agricultural outputs of that area. Also, a significant factor of Takhbai is that it is known for its archaeological sites at Seri Balol and Takhbai, which hosts the most well-preserved Buddhist monastery. The population is around 1.2 million. 0.12 million. So, sir, that is about it.
0.12
million, sir. Around just over 1 lakh.
How many union consulate has got?
Sir, 52.
And how many MPs come from that area?
From Takhbai, sir. Sir, 2. And 1 federal minister for state.
They are from Takhbai, Tehsil or Peshawar, Mardan?
Yes, sir. From Takhbai, sir.
No, what is the population division for this seat of Member of Parliament?
Sir, I'm not sure about that.
Can you give us profile of your province, KP, because you are what is the political structure, what type of political governance is there? And then you can tell us about FATA merger and what are the implications.
Sir, politically, we have seen that in KP, this is the second time that the PTI government has been re-elected. So before that, no government had the opportunity to serve twice in the province. So this is the first time that a government has been re-elected in 2013 and now in 20. Apart from that, sir, overall, KP has a rich cultural history as well, because it was at the crossroads of Central and South Asia, due to which we find that the Gandharan civilization developed in this area. And due to that, Buddhism and Hinduism had a strong presence in the region. Currently, sir, if we talk about the FATA merger, sir, so it has been welcomed by the political parties of KP, obviously, because they will get a greater number of, one reason is that they will have a larger number of seats in the National Assembly, because the seats of FATA will be merged into KP Assembly, into the province of KP, which will get a greater representation in the central government. So, so there were certain spoilers during the merger, but I think they have been resolved to a great extent now. And the 25th amendment was for the merger of FATA with KP, which is now in the process. Developmental projects are being initiated in FATA, and so that's about it.
This present government, they claim that they have made a lot of breakthrough in tourism and then in especially health system. Can you tell us what type of, and then police reforms? Tell us with reference to your own experience in the subdivision. Reform in the health sector and the police thana culture and tourism, if there is any.
Sir, I'll divide my answer into 3 parts. So firstly, coming to the tourism sector, in my subdivision, as I mentioned before, the major tourist attraction is the Takhbai monastery. So for that, the government has initiated a plan at a tehsil level, where we have formed committees which has representation of the assistant commissioner and the local people of that area. basically to increase awareness about the Taqbai monastery through media, local media, and through digital media as well. But overall, if we talk about the province of KP has increased tourism. The tourist potential in KP has increased because of the focus of the government on this area. The northern areas, including starting from Nartalbari and Kumrat, Swat, Dir, Chitral, all of these regions. Secondly, sir, about the health and education. For the health department, sir, a new innovative step that has been taken just now recently in my tehsil, as you were asking about my tehsil, sir, is the health management committees. These health management committees, sir, have been formed at the level of the basic health units, the BHUs, which are present in the district, sir. The health management committee will be under the assistant commissioner. It will have two representatives from the health department, the local MS the DHO, sir, and two representatives from the local community. They will be delegated a fund from the from the provincial government. They will give them a fund for whole 1 year, and in that fund they will be responsible to manage that particular BHU, all the infrastructure requirements, etc.
How many BH you have got in Taqbai?
So 15 BHUs in Takhtai, sir. So this is the latest step in the health department, sir. And in education, sir.
Now, what about this health card? Is it functional there?
Sir, a health card in SAF card is functional. It is basically your ID card, which serves as the health card, but it is not available in most hospitals. It is not, for example, it's not available in Mardan Medical Complex, which is the main hospital of Mardan. Some hospitals accept it, but others do not. It is only functional in some of the hospitals.
So how do you see this impact of Afghan crisis in your provinces, in your province especially?
The Afghan crisis, I believe that it hit the province of KP most severely because of its geographical and linguistic contiguity. We have Pathans predominantly residing in KP and in Afghanistan. So the current situation which is evolving in Afghanistan, if there is any impact, it will be on KP. The maximum impact will be on KP province. And for that, I believe that the current government must make sure that if we are improving ties with the Taliban government, that should be only to the extent of that should be limited on a limited scale, ensuring that there is no migration of people into the province again, into KP, because that can obviously affect the demographics of the province, and that will also have a burden on the existing infrastructure, the civic facilities, the health facilities, and that is obviously bound to create a blowback here in KP province as well.
How many union council you have got in your tehsil?
Sir, 52 in total, Mardan, sir. I'm not confirmed about Takhbai.
When you are going for your local government election?
Sir, they are in progress right now, sir.
What is happening? What is the stage?
Sir, nomination papers are being filed right now. But sir, I am not a part of the elections. My duty has, because I requested my deputy commissioner to exclude me from that so that I have some time available for the interview preparation.
Then you tell me, what is globalization and what are the pros and cons the globalization is facing at the moment?
Sir, globalization is defined as the deepening, strengthening, and expansion of worldwide interconnectedness, basically. The term global village is derived from globalization, which essentially means the increased interaction and the increased dilution, basically dilution of physical, cultural, and social boundaries between states. Referring to the pros and cons, obviously, sir, the greatest con which we see right now is the highly integrated economies in globalization, which due to COVID had a negative impact on all the worlds, because the economy and the supply lines, they were integrated, due to which all the countries suffered the impact of COVID-19. Secondly, sir, the positive of globalization, if you come to the positives of globalization, sir.
What is happening now? You see, there's a lot of literature on this issue that globalization, again, there is a movement especially from Trump era. They want to protect their own production and own industry and something like that. This is happening now.
Sir, it happened more in the Trump era. Basically, right wing populism, right wing nationalism that was starting to take precedence over globalization. We had countries like the United States leading the bloc, and then some countries like Hungary and other European states who were calling for basically calling for greater isolation, because they believed that their interests were being somehow overrun by the impacts of globalization, due to which we saw the US-China trade war that took place between US and China, and their withdrawal from Trans-Pacific Partnership, their withdrawal from the Climate Accord. So these were some of the aspects. But now, since Joe Biden has come into power, he rejoined the Paris Agreement on the first day. He is renegotiating the JCPOA. Although Chinese strategy remains mostly the same, but he has scaled down that anti-globalization rhetoric of Donald Trump. But I believe that globalization is now it's an irreversible process in the current era, and it will keep on increasing. It cannot be ended.
Thank you.
How policies are formed in our country and implemented? First, tell us about what is policy.
Policy is basically the vision of the government, which is the government in power, which is translated into action through the bureaucracy or through the executive branch of the government.
How policies are formed? What is the process? What is the mechanism? And then implemented.
So basically, when a bill is tabled in the parliament, that bill, once it is given assent by the president, it becomes a law. That those laws.
Before that, you see, there's a lot of work which is done in this regard. It's not tabling of the bill in the parliament. Before that, a lot of effort, a lot of input has to be there. What is that?
So I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer this question.
What are the components of a police station?
Sir, though I've never actually been inside a police station till now, but obviously there's the office of the SHO, the detention cell, which we call Hawalat, and there's a record room. There's a parking lot which is usually used for impounding traffic vehicles or other similar items.
Malkhana?
Malkhana, sir.
What is the Roznamcha?
In police, it's a daily diary basically, in which the police records its activities, important activities, or basically takes an initial report. If a complainant comes to a police station, the initial report is taken in the Roznamcha.
No, that is mentioned there, but everything happening in the police station.
Yes, sir.
Even the changing of the guards.
Yes, sir.
Who, you see, who came, who went.
Yes, sir, all important activities.
Everything. How do you see the ongoing EVM Road between the government and the opposition and the election commission?
Obviously, the electronic voting machines do have the benefit of ensuring greater transparency, but I believe that the basic issue in this government has been that it has not followed the proper parliamentary procedure for introducing bills. They have resorted to culture of ordinances, which happened before them as well. But the issue is not regarding the electronic voting machine. It is more, I believe, has to do with the proper procedure that needs to be followed in a democracy. And the greater responsibility is on the ruling government, because they are in power. The proper procedure should be to go through the parliament instead of implementing ordinances, and not to blackmail, or not to, you can say, tarnish the image of state institutions like the election commission. Because if you tarnish the image of the state institution like the election commission, which is supposed to be neutral, then you are automatically paving the way for reducing the credibility of democracy in the country. So I believe, sir, this is the main.
What are carbon sinks?
Carbon sinks are your oceans, and the Arctic was the major carbon sink, but now it used to basically absorb maximum carbon, but now it is not, because it's melting. And our trees, oceans, Arctic and Antarctic ice sheets. These are the major carbon sinks.
And the forests also, rainforests.
Forests are, yes, sir, trees and forests.
What's happening to rainforests? Instead of carbon sinks, they are emitting carbon. It is said, the studies which have lately conducted.
I believe deforestation that is happening. That is a major reason that the global forest cover is reducing. If you look at the previous studies, global forest cover is reducing, due to which the carbon sequestration or carbon absorption which those forests were doing, that is not happening right now.
Right. What is Pakistan's nuclear doctrine?
I believe presently it's full spectrum deterrence.
What does that mean?
So that means that previously Pakistan had a no first use policy, which is now not in place. Ever since the conventional and nuclear arms buildup of India in collaboration with US has started, so Pakistan is routed to full spectrum deterrence, which means that Pakistan will also acquire nuclear weapons, and they can use it first in case of a convention.
That is one factor, that is Indo-US deal, American deal, and what are there? There are some others also. Something very important.
I am unable to recall them, sir. Right now,
have you heard of the Nuclear Supplies Group?
Yes, sir.
Is Pakistan a member of it?
No, sir. India is, sir.
India is member.
It's not a member, but the US has allowed India to purchase, to carry out trade in nuclear weapons.
Yes.
Which will
exemption.
Allow, yes, sir, exemption.
Got exemption. So that is another.
Yes, sir. Because, sir, it will allow US to divert its civil nuclear supplies.
And finally, what was Camp David Accord about?
About the recognition of Israel in 1978, sir, in 1978 between Egypt and Israel. Sir, it was brokered by US President Jimmy Carter, and in which
it was an accord between,
yes, sir,
a peaceful agreement between, yes, Egypt and Israel.
Yes, sir. Through which, sir, Egypt recognized Israel, and the Sinai Peninsula was returned to Egypt.
What was Ricochet case about, and how it ended?
Sir, it was about copper mines in Balochistan, and the previous government, I believe, under General Pervez Musharraf, they had a deal with a foreign company, Tethian Copper Company, I believe, for granting them mining rights. But when the new government came into power, they cancelled that lease, due to which the company...
government cancelled the lease? Who?
The next government.
Who decided?
So the next government. I believe the PPP government, they cancelled.
It was by the Supreme Court, a decision,
Okay.
Chaudhry Iftikhar.
Yes.
He did that on the basis of that. And
okay.
Zain Ali, you're interested in foreign service also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do you know about the hierarchy of an embassy?
An embassy, sir, ma'am, it's headed by the ambassador, and then the I believe there's the first secretary, second secretary, third secretary, as we move downwards.
And what is the difference between a high commissioner and an ambassador?
Ma'am, a high commissioner is appointed in those states which are part of the Commonwealth, and the ambassador is appointed in those states which are not part of the Commonwealth. Right?
Sometimes Pakistani ambassador is ambassador, and sometimes he's a high commissioner, because sometimes you're in Commonwealth and sometimes you're not in Commonwealth.
I believe so.
Okay. What is a birdie?
In golf? Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, it's basically when you one below par.
Have you done any good birdies?
Yes, a few, ma'am. My house is actually adjacent to the golf club, so I've been playing there. So.
Okay. Have you been following the newspaper?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know about the recent Sikh referendum in London? Do you know anything about the Khalistan movement?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you share your thoughts?
It's basically a nationalist movement that is in which the Sikh diaspora community is involved around the world, and the local Sikhs in India, basically wanting to create a state, by a Khalistan state comprising of the Sikh community. So we saw that the assassination of Miss Indira Gandhi in 1984 by her own bodyguards was due to the reason that she was not in support. She ordered the Operation Blue Star in 1984. So that it's basically one of the nationalist movements which are taking place, like the Palestinian movement and the movement in Kashmir. So Khalistan movement is also another part of that.
So, what do you think they're going to do after the referendum?
Now I'm sorry, I haven't followed that referendum, so I cannot answer this.
Have you been following COP26?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you share your thoughts on the conclusion of COP26?
Ma'am, what the recent article which I read said that four agenda points are basically involved in COP26. They are cash, cars, carbon, and trees. Cash basically refers to the climate finance. They are saying that it is decided that $4 trillion are required annually if we want the world to go carbon neutral by 2050. So it has placed a responsibility on the developed states to provide $100 billion annually to developing countries. Secondly, ma'am, cars is basically to move towards renewable energy resources, renewable fuel. And thirdly, ma'am, carbon is carbon limitation, and trees is afforestation programs. So these were the four basic points on which the COP26 was. It revolved around these 4 points.
Thank you very much, Zain.
Okay, Zain. Let us talk about US history.
So,
On $1 bill, whose pictures is on the $1 bill?
I believe George Washington,
And on $100 bill?
Benjamin Franklin.
Sure.
So as far as I've read, I believe it's Benjamin Franklin on the 100.
Okay, tell me, where did the Declaration of Independence sign? In which state?
In which state, sir? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sir.
Philadelphia or Pennsylvania?
State of Pennsylvania, sir. City of
State of?
Philadelphia. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, can you tell me the first US capital?
It was New York, first capital.
First
Yes, sir.
capital of
The third.
American colonies.
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me, can you define the three types of US colonies?
The names of
Yeah.
Sir, Virginia was the first.
No. The types of American colonies.
The northern colonies, then middle colonies, proprietary colonies, and southern colonies.
Yeah, this was proprietary colonies. And
Southern colonies, sir.
okay, what do you know about the Burrs conspiracy?
Sir, it was, I believe,
When it happened?
I'm not sure, but he basically wasn't elected as the vice. He was in the election for the vice president, but he wasn't elected at the time of Thomas Jefferson, I think.
Okay, era of good feeling
Yes, sir.
is a time period associated with the president of the United States of America. Name the president.
So James Monroe.
James Monroe.
Yes, sir. Good feeling.
Okay, who was the founder of Democratic Party?
The Democratic Party.
Democratic Party.
Sir, Andrew Jackson, sir.
Andrew Jackson. And
Sir Martin Van Buren.
okay, and who was the founder of Republican Party?
Sir Abraham Lincoln, sir.
Abraham Lincoln. There was no Republican Party before that.
No, sir. It was
Who
actually
laid down? Okay, which one is the Conservative Party?
in these two, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, the Republican Party.
it's a Conservative. It
Yes,
belongs to Tories or Whigs?
Big, sir.
Whigs. Okay, Federalist and Anti-Federalist. There was a debate about the Constitution approval. What Anti-Federalists wanted? What sort of constitution they demanded?
Basically, they wanted a federal state in which the individual states or the provinces should have more powers as compared to the central government. And the federalists wanted a strong central government as compared to the provinces. Sir. And also, sir, the anti-federalists wanted representation, equal representation in both houses, and they wanted a single house with equal representation. And the federalists wanted two houses, both on proportional representation. So then a compromise was reached known as the Connecticut Compromise, in which bicameralism was introduced, in which the lower house was based on equal representation and the upper house on proportional representation.
You've read US history. During the progressive era, can you name some of the very important captains of industry?
Sir, J.D. Rockefeller, and I've read it, I cannot recall it right now, sir.
Okay. Woodrow Wilson belongs to which political party?
Sir, he was a Democrat.
Democrat?
Yes.
And John F. Kennedy?
Sir, he was a Republican.
Jimmy Carter?
Jimmy Carter was a Democrat, sir.
Who was the president of the United States of America when USSR invaded Afghanistan?
Sir, Jimmy Carter.
Sure.
Yes, in 79. Yes, sir.
After the John F. Kennedy, who was the president?
Sir, 64. Sir, Dwight Eisenhower. No, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's talk about Pakistan studies. Okay, one, for the first time, Muslim demand of separate electorate incorporated in constitutional reforms.
Sir, in 1909, in the Parliamentary reforms.
Lucknow Pact was an agreement between Indian National Congress and All India Muslim League. This agreement was conceived by a Governor General. Can you name that Governor General? 1919 की जो reforms थी, उस reforms का नाम क्या था?
Sir, Montague Chelmsford.
Yes, Montague was the Governor General who conceived the agreement. Okay, can you tell me the name who negotiated on behalf of Indian National Congress with the cabinet mission?
Sir, Nehru, I believe, sir. Nehru, yes, sir. Cabinet mission.
Abul Kalam Azad.
Abul Kalam.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's conclude it. Let's conclude the final this formal interview. Let's try to have a. What do you say? What do you think about your performance?
Sir, it could have been better. But,
could have been better.
Yes, sir. Actually, I haven't had that much time to revise, especially my optionals, because I have I'm working full time. So, but my interview is in January, so I'm hoping that I can cover those up before the final attempt.
Zain, तुम्हारे stakes ज़्यादा high है.
Sir.
तुम्हें पता है?
Yes, sir.
Because you are already in the promotional service. वो उसकी भी अब जो ladder है.
जी sir.
Ladder promotion is fine.
Sir.
वो भी कोई issue नहीं है इतना. ठीक है. But today I feel at the moment कि तुम्हारी state अब preparedness नहीं है.
जी sir.
तुम अभी तक हालत जंग में नहीं आए.
जी sir.
तो luckily you have got time.
Sir.
So you need to work hard.
Yes, sir.
पढ़े लिखे आप ठीक हो. You are original भी हो, critical भी हो, objectivity भी है आप में. You have got a good personality. Introduction में आपका ठीक है. Intelligent है. Communication skills are fine. आपकी body language ठीक है. आपकी oral भी ठीक है. अब थोड़ा सा जो नजर आया मुझे वो यही है कि knowledge gap. जनरलाइज तो आप चीज़ों को कर लेते हैं लेकिन स्पेसिफिक जिस तरह पूछते हैं वो नहीं कर सकते. तो आजकल वो ट्रेंड है कि वो टोकन क्वेश्चन पूछो. ठीक है ना. तो यू नीड टू ब्रिंग योरसेल्फ इन द स्टेट ऑफ प्रिपेयर्डनेस. मीनिंग बाय कि भाई किस तरह करना है. न्यूज़पेपर को कर रहे होगे 3 महीने के गुज़श्ता जो है हार्ड कॉपीज लेके उनको सारा अपडेट रिव्यू करो. नेशनल इंटरनेशनल एंड सोशल इश्यूज. ठीक है. और अपनी नोटबुक बनाई हुई है कोई इंटरव्यू?
जी सर. वो तो सॉफ्ट में भी नोट्स बना रहा हूँ सर.
उसको भी बनाओ. हर पेज पे लिखो 1 2 3 4 पॉइंट. स्पोकन इंटरव्यू जो होता है ना उसमें फिर सारा फोकस होता है कि आपने 2-3 बातें करनी है.
जी सर.
ठीक है. दिस इज अ 2-वे कम्युनिकेशन.
जी सर.
अब यू आर इन तो आपका तुम्हारा यहाँ से स्टार्ट भी यहाँ से होगा जहाँ तुम हो.
जी सर.
यू आर ऑलरेडी एक्सपीरियंस फॉर देम. तो वो अब तुमसे तुम्हारी हॉबीज के बारे में इतना वरी नहीं करेंगे. दे विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम असिस्टेंट कमिश्नर. थाने को समझो. किसी को जाके विजिट करके देखो. पुलिस ऑर्डर तुम्हें पता हो. डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर के फंक्शन क्या है. डिस्ट्रिक्ट में मैजिस्ट्रेट क्या था. डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोऑर्डिनेशन में क्या है. लोकल गवर्नमेंट के तहत लोकल डेवोल्यूशन क्या है. मतलब तुम्हारी कंसेप्चुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग इन चीज़ों के लिए क्लियर होनी चाहिए. यू आर ऑलरेडी गोइंग फॉर ए लोकल गवर्नमेंट इलेक्शन. तो ये मेरे ख्याल में थोड़ा सा नॉलेज गैप का इशू हम देख रहे हैं.
ठीक है सर।
ठीक है ना, यू
जी
नीड
सर।
टू, लकली यू हैव गॉट टाइम
जी
एंड
सर।
यू नीड टू वर्क हार्ड।
जी
ठीक है ना, तुम अभी किस तरह देखो ना, तुम वो 2013 में तुम्हारी ग्रेजुएशन हुई
जी सर।
और 2019 में तुमने ज्वाइन किया,
जी सर।
ठीक है ना। अब तुम 2013 से यहाँ से फिर इट विल बी ए न्यू स्टार्ट,
जी सर।
तो 7 साल 8 साल का तो गैप के साथ जब स्टार्ट
जी।
करोगे तो फिर तो
जी सर।
चीज़ें इतनी दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट्स में मज़ा नहीं आएगा तुम्हें।
जी सर।
तो इसलिए मेरा ख्याल है कि थोड़ी सी मेहनत कर लो,
जी सर।
यू नीड टू वर्क हार्ड। आप सर?
ये देखिए पॉलिसी ये जो है फॉर्मुलेशन, उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, बेसिक चीज़ है, आपको पता होनी चाहिए ये पॉलिसीज
उस
कैसे
वक्त कंफ्यूज हो
कैसे
गया था
बनती हैं
समझ।
यार। ये
जी सर।
क्यों ये तो बात ठीक नहीं है। आप
जी सर।
सर्विस में है,
जी सर।
पीएमएस में है,
जी सर।
जिसका ताल्लुक है जो है, तो ये जो है इसको जाकर देखें। और देखने की ज़रूरत क्या, यू शुड नो। ये तो इट्स नॉट समथिंग वेरी। बाकी जो है जैसे कहा, आपका नॉलेज गैप है और योर कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स दे आर वेरी गुड, लेकिन यू नीड टू वर्क हार्ड। ठीक है, इसको ट्राई टू बिल्ड ऑन इट। ठीक है, जैसे इन्होंने कहा है, कोशिश करें, मेहनत करें।
Zain, you have a good personality. You're an intelligent boy, and it seems that you're hardworking. सिर्फ ये जो knowledge gap है because
जी।
you're working,
जी
वो do fill it up before the exam. Otherwise, it's good. थोड़ा सा knowledge gap fill up कर लो. I'm confident you'll do very well.
थैंक यू मैम।
आपको यही कहूँगा, ऑब्जेक्टिव टाइप के क्वेश्चंस जो हैं उनको थोड़ा सा देख लें। अभी
सर।
आईआर के क्वेश्चंस मैंने आपसे नहीं किए, अगर वो
जी
चीज़ें
सर।
पूछता तो आपको डॉक्ट्रिन और उन सब चीज़ों को,
जी सर।
या जो थ्योरिस्ट थे उनके बारे में,
ठीक।
ये थोड़ा सा पाकिस्तान स्टडी और इन चीज़ों को ऑब्जेक्टिव टाइप्स को।
ठीक है सर। थैंक यू
बेस्ट
सर।
ऑफ लक।
थैंक यू सर।